Alright fellas, we're back in Pokemon Masters, and today we're going to be taking a look at Special Costume Berry and Mega Heracross, who are going to be releasing tomorrow alongside the new costume event, New Heroes Are Born, alongside Celine at a later date, 2 days later, whatever. And I do want to note that this is going to be having a part 2. In some aspect, there's going to be a part 2 because Barry leaves on May 20th, which is such a long date that only ever happens for like Master Fairs or special costume events where they end up having a part 2. That's pretty much all there is to it. Barry will be there will be a part 2 probably for this costume event, so be on the lookout for that. If there's anybody that may be interesting to you, maybe wait and see if they will appear in part 2. But anyway, I digress. We're going to be looking at Barry here today and seeing how strong he is. I'm going to try and go a little bit quicker on this just because of a lack of time. But I want to obviously, talk about his abilities and how strong he is, which he is strong. He is a very strong physical bug striker, again with Mega Heracross, Bug, Sinnoh, Rival, Special Costume, Passionate Spirit theme skills. He is a physical striker with the Tech EX roll, very common striker. He's very, very reminiscent of any, quote-unquote brain-dead damage dealer, to where he's just capable of doing good solid damage, via different methods, right? Or via the most basic method of just hitting the enemy hard, right? It's not like he has a strong nuke and bad DPS, or bad DPS and a strong... That's the same thing. Or good DPS and a bad nuke, that type of thing, right? It's more that he's just going to be hitting hard across the board. I believe, if I remember off the top of my head, he is like the 6th or 7th best striker nuke in the game. Behind those of like Neo Champion Red, obviously, Neo Champion Nate, Eriott, Special Custom Eriott. I believe he's behind Suit Red now with his EX role, but obviously that does include their partners. Those characters have great partners. Barry being a bug unit, honestly, his partners are kind of middling, right? So if Barry gets better partners, like especially a Bug Zone setter, which I think is probably a little bit more unlikely now that we already got Holiday Viola back in December, but like maybe a bug rebuff support or something, that would be really strong for Barry, and would probably make him look a lot better just in general, but despite that fact, he's already still really strong. So let's actually look at his abilities. So he's got his trainer move here, Going Ahead, which reduces sync countdown by 1, raises his attack by 2, and raises his crit by 3, and it applies Endurance. Pretty solid ability. It's got some sync countdown for sync ramping, buffing attack and crit to max. Applying Endurance is useful for some different game modes, right? That stray AoE that could potentially kill you could make the difference, so that Endurance is nice. He does have entry, attack, and speed up 2, raising his attack and speed by 2 on entry, so that is also very helpful there as well. So he does get that +2 attack, plus the +2 attack on his trainer move, so he gets +4 attack total by himself, and then he has speed up as well. I do not know if this changes between Mega Evolving. It does not change, so he does get this also on Mega Evolution, meaning he will have max attack and +4 speed on his Mega. And then he's also got Piercing Gaze, moves never miss, very, very good. And then he's got Guaranteed Triple to No Quarter. Guaranteed Triple for Heracross, which increases the multi-strike moves to having a minimum of 3 successful attacks, because he does use Pin Missile, right? So Pin Missile hits 2 to 5 times. Triple Strike, Guaranteed Triple rather, it makes it so it's guaranteed to be at least 3. It can be more than 3, but is at minimum now 3. And then when he Mega Evolves into Heracross, Mega Heracross, he gets No Quarter. So he now has it so where all of his moves, Pin Missiles will land. Which, in combined with Piercing Gaze, that means that they will also hit the enemy, right? Because No Quarter does not make your moves guaranteed to land. It just means that they will be used the maximum number of times. You can still miss, right? But thankfully, Piercing Gaze makes that not happen, so you don't have to worry about missing Pin Missile, which is good. So, again, keep that in mind. He does have the ability to max his attack and crit. Granted, it's only +4 until he Mega Evolves, but still, that's not bad, right? I mean, +4 is still fine. He'll never miss, so evasion buffs are not a problem for him. Accuracy debuffs are not a problem for him. Very useful abilities, just in general, right? Just across the board, those are not bad. And then Guaranteed Triple No Quarter makes his Pin Missiles a little bit more consistent. Pin Missile is not great as a DPS option outright, but in the grid, once we get to that, it will look a little bit better to actually utilize, right? And it's not horrible DPS when you're actually able to use it consistently. It's still like 90 base power at minimum, which is, could that be better? Obviously, right? It could be, of course, it could always be better, but I mean, that's not horrible considering the rest of what his kit will have. Also, I failed to go over his stats. That's my bad, of course. 651 health, 400 attack, 134 in the defense, 147 in special defense, and then 333 speed. Offense is fine. Speed's good. The defenses are pretty bad, realistically, but obviously with 6-star access do increase. 751 health, 174 defense, 187 special defense, 440 attack is very good, and 373 speed is also pretty solid as well. So I feel like Barry, honestly, for being a striker, I don't remember if he's got any flinching ability or any of that type of utility, but I mean, he looks like he'll probably be good for like gauntlet duos or something. Very good manageable speed, especially with this 2-gauge move here. I don't know, could be wrong, but either way, that's fine. And then once he Mega Evolves, his attack increases from 440 to 527, which is a very strong attack stat. 224 special defense, making his defenses look a little bit better. Defense is still pretty low, realistically speaking, but I mean, obviously Tech EX roll does help that out. 550 up to 551 on the attack, 248 special defense, right? 194 defense, 811 health, and then 150. Yeah, these are great stats, man. I mean, that attack is absurd. So if you plan to fully invest in Barry, you're going to get some very good stats. 575 attack's nice. Even without the Mega Evolution, 480 attack is still very respectable. So the fact he gets nearly a 100 increase from having the EX roll and move and the level ups and whatnot is very crazy. So that's nice. Good stats, overall good stats. And then he's got Close Combat, which is a 3-gauge move, 124 power, lowers his defenses. This is mostly if you're going to be fighting weak stages, attacking fighting weak stages, right? So if you're going to be doing those stages, then Close Combat's going to be pretty helpful for that. But I'd say that's mostly it. I mean, you know, Registeel, but also do consider he debuffs his own defense, so you do need a way to mitigate that, which I don't remember if he has that. Yeah, he's got Status Quo, I think, in the grid here. I thought he did. Wait, hold on. Hold on. I literally thought I saw Status Quo. No, he doesn't. Okay, he doesn't have Status Quo. Unless I'm blind again. No, I'm not blind. Okay, he doesn't have any way of mitigating his defensive debuffs. Oh, wait, he's got Impervious. I'm fucking stupid. Yeah, he's got Impervious. So there you go. You can mitigate the defensive debuffs if you do have Barry at least 3 out of 5, right? So that's not bad. Then he's got Spiral Mega Horn here, 4-gauge move, 300 power, targets all enemies. Activation condition is when the user's attack move hits a total of 5 times while the move is deactivated. Deactivation condition is when the move is used. So now, not only and the power is lower than if they're not, what the fuck ever, multiple targets. This is strong. This is like Signasu N done right. For one, it's activated pretty much every other turn, because consider, Barry has no quarter once he Mega Evolves, which his sync move is worth using, with dupes. Keep that in mind, with dupes. Without dupes, it's not really worth using Barry's sync move, but for the single fact that you're going to get no quarter, I do think it may actually be worth utilizing his sync move, but realistically, that's just going to be something you're going to have to test out in game. Either way, assuming Heracross has Mega Evolved, which again, with investment, it is a good option, because, spoiler alert, he does have a good sync nuke. As I said, he's like, what, top 7 striker nukes? Either way, being able to get no quarter is amazing, because Pin Missile, guaranteed land 5 times, that'll activate Spiral Mega Horn, you'll use Spiral Mega Horn, you'll use Pin Missile, you'll go back to using Spiral Mega Horn, because consider, this buddy move does not have any MP. It is infinitely usable as long as any of his attack moves hit 5 times total. So use Pin Missile, lands 5 times, use Mega Horn, wash, rinse, repeat, and you're effectively getting a decent, 95, 98-ish base power. Pin Missile out against the enemy, that's, fine, right? That's fine. But then you get this, and then afterwards you really make up for the DPS you lost with Pin Missile by using Mega Horn. It is these big nuking characters, big gimmick nuking characters done right. The biggest example, again, being Signasu N. His condition was absolutely... It wasn't a condition, but it was a 2-turn move by itself. But the big thing with Signasu N is that he had no DPS to go around, right? Because he has the same exact power at 300, but Free Shock is a 2-turn move, effectively splitting it into a 150 base power move that if you were to ever use it twice, right? And it's got its own set of problems that is a little bit annoying, but Barry fixes that, because once you use Spiral Mega Horn, you don't have to wait a turn or anything like that. You use Pin Missile, which, while not the best DPS option, will provide at least about 80 to 100 base power, which is still going to be hitting for something, right? That's still going to be hitting for decent damage. And of course, you can alternate to Close Combat if you want to do that, but I think Pin Missile is better with dupe investment for a specific reason. Either way, how does Barry look at 1 out of 5? I think Barry at 1 out of 5 is fine. I think the biggest struggle with him at 1 out of 5 is that you want to Mega Evolve to get no quarter, but you're not going to want to Mega Evolve because the Sync Nuke is garbage at 1 out of 5. He has no multipliers outside of Crit Strike 2 if you give him that, but I mean, if you can find a way to Mega Evolve with him without, you know, dampening your team's power or being that ineffective, then it is worthwhile because, of course, you do get to the ability to then swap between Pin Missile and Spiral Mega Horn. Basically, trying to unlock Mega Horn as much as possible is your best option, or the best thing that you can do with Barry. Spam Pin Missile, then Mega Horn, Pin Missile, Mega Horn, keep going. Just making sure you can use this as much as possible is what you want to aim to do. Without having no quarter, obviously you have Guaranteed Triple, which sometimes you'll land 5 Pin Missiles, sometimes you won't, right? I mean, most of the time you won't. You'll land 3 or 4, and then occasionally you'll land 5 Pin Missiles. So you got to consider how often am I going to get the Spiral Mega Horn off? Because even if you miss just 1 Pin Missile, or you only land it like 4 times instead of 5, you still have to wait a whole other turn to get Spiral Mega Horn activated because you have to use Close Combat or Pin Missile again to finish the activation. Because this does not count any of his allies' moves. It's not like new champion Serena or Calum or Variety Faulkner, which we'll go ahead and look at, where their condition is when allies' attack move lands a total of 10 times or 5 times or whatever, right? It has to be Barry himself. So I think I've conveyed that point enough that you do really want to have no quarter activated, but at 1 out of 5, using Barry Sync Nuke is not a great option. So you have to really worry about that. That's the one thing with these special costume units is that they're crazy, but you also kind of want investment. So you gotta kind of balance that. At least in Barry's case, you really do want investment. Looking at him at 1 out of 5 in the grid, he's got Unflappable, which is basic and fine. 2 out of 5, you get Super Preparation, Tripping Strike 1, Sync Nodes, and then some Gauge Refreshes, and Super Duper Effective 5 on Close Combat. Super Duper Effective 5 on Close Combat is good. That makes his fighting damage look a lot better, but that's mostly, again, just going to be helpful for any Fighting Week stage, because literally, obviously being super effective, that's the only stages that it is good for, right? Fighting Week stages. So do keep that in mind. I mean, it's going to be good for fighting damage, but realistically, if you're using him on type anyway, I think you're going to be fine. You're not going to have too many problems. I think it'll be fine. And then Sync Nodes here as well. Do consider he does have the Mega Sync Nuke problem, to where without the Tech EX roll, he has a 168 base power sync move, so the plus 50 power in the Sync Nodes is going to help him to get to over 200. So that little thing that I was saying where his Sync Nuke is not great at 1 out of 5, yeah, it goes double now because his Sync move is effectively halved in damage because he's a Mega Sync pair. So again, you do have to keep all that stuff in mind. These 2 Sync Nodes do help though in increasing power, as well as is the big help of the Tech EX roll. It effectively turns his Sync Nuke from being a Mega Sync into a regular base power Sync move. Of course, on top of the stat buffs as well, right? So that's nice. Tripping Strike's fine for speed debuffing. He does not ever use this as an actual ability, but it's something that you're probably going to pick up anyway to get to some other nodes at 3 out of 5, and it's going to be, I guess, helpful if you have a partner that has Cakewalk or Hunter's Instinct or that type of thing. Or, of course, if enemies need debuff, like Latias or something. And then Training with Super Preparation, again, this is just good for and like weakness stages, right? Maybe if there's like a Sentry Entry bug stage, which I'm pretty sure Seabold is Sentry Entry, then this just allows Barry to be able to beat Seabold more effectively, right? Or any bug weak stage you use him against, which I don't think any of these nodes are really worthwhile to just go to 2 out of 5 for. If you're gonna invest him to at least 2 out of 5, go the extra mile and go 3 out of 5 because he gets a lot of great stuff. Head Start 1, which in conjunction with the -1 sync countdown on the trainer move is pretty effective. Give him Head Start 1 as a lucky skill, and you've got yourself that -3 sync countdown, useful for sync ramping, allows you to get to your mega sync faster, so you can then get that no quarter, use those pin missiles, and get your Spiral Mega Horn in, right? Haymaker as well. This increases the power of your sync move the more your attack is raised. He does maximize his attack once Mega Evolving, so it will be activated to max on your second sync move after Barry uses his first one, so that's very nice there. Speedster Sync, increasing sync power when speed is raised. Obviously, he raises speed on entry and upon Mega Evolution, so you do get that +4 speed extremely easily. 90% 90% sync multiplier just for having speed raised that by any amount. It can be raised by 1, it can be raised by 6. This will be fully activated no matter how many buffs you have, unlike Haymaker, which scales with however much attack is raised, but still. Those are good nodes. 100% node, 100% total power here, 90% total power here, combined with at least 2 sync nodes, and you're looking at Barry with the Tech EX roll at 314 base power sync move with 190% in total multipliers, plus Critical Strike 2 if you run that as a lucky skill, right? So 210% total there. That's a very strong sync move, combined with what is effectively another sync move as a DPS move. So that is definitely very, very strong. He's also got ramming speed, which 30% power to Pin Missile is going to help with its middling DPS, and it's going to make Spiral Megahorn's DPS look stupid. So this is great stuff for sure. This is great stuff. 30% multiplier here. You do want to have your speed maxed at that point, which he can only raise his speed by +4. But if you can find a, there's a ton of supports that can buff speed. So I mean, you're not going to struggle to find speed buffs, right? I think it would have been better if Tripping Strike was instead instead of lowering enemy speed, it was raising your speed. But either way, that's neither here nor there. It's still good for sure. And then, yeah, I would say, honestly, if we're going to invest in Barry, this is probably a grid you would want to invest in my opinion. If you're going to take Barry to 3 out of 5, I would recommend getting this. Punishing Strike 2 is a 30% chance to debuff defense per Pin Missile you land. So it can debuff 1 time, it can debuff 0 times, it can debuff up to 5 times, right? It depends on your luck. Either way, this gives you some actual utility and reason to use Pin Missile besides the meager DPS, right? This means that you are going to be able to actually do something else, which means that once your Mega Horns are landing, obviously they get ramming speed for power, they get Critical Strike 2 for power, but now they also have defense debuffs for power, and once that's deactivated, you use Pin Missile, you get some defensive debuffs, increasing the damage of your next Spiral Mega Horn and Pin Missile itself, right? So you do actually have some good use of Pin Missile here for getting Punishing Strike. I would say this is a node you definitely should pick up because I don't think there's really too many partners you're going to be running with Barry, at least to empower Barry, that are going to be able to debuff defense. Like, you could use Ingo, right? He can debuff defense with Defense Crush, but realistically you could also use another striker option, whatever that may be, like Special Costume Emmett, who cannot debuff defense, but he supplements with being a good secondary DPS. Or maybe Variety Nolan, who is in a similar situation, right? So you've got to really consider who your partners are going to be for Barry in order to help debuff enemy defense if you really don't want to pick up Punishing Strike. And if you don't pick up enemy Punishing Strike, I don't know what to give him for, honestly, because he can only pick up 1 sync node with that, and I really think that this node is just that strong and that good, so I don't know. I don't know what else you would really want to pick up. I mean, with the extra 1 energy, you can't pick up anything. So if you just don't want to invest grid energy into Barry, this is your minimum grid. If you don't have the Sync Orbs to invest in Barry, this is probably the grid you would want to go for because it doesn't utilize any extra grid energy. But it does sacrifice Punishing Strike, which again, in my opinion, is something you should try and aim to invest in. Even if it does cost that 40,000 Sync Orbs, I think it is worthwhile to actually pick up. This is the most basic setup you're going to run for Barry. The full Sync Nuke, the full DPS power, right, with the Punishing Strike and ramming speed, that type of stuff. That's probably what you're going to run. But if you do want to go more gimmicky, he does have other abilities, mostly staggering through on close combat, as well as Impervious. Impervious and preventing the stat debuffs makes close combat a viable DPS option in long-term battles where Barry may be getting hit by AoE attacks. It just makes it so you don't obviously take much damage, which is obviously useful. And then staggering 3 as well, 40% chance to flinch. This gives him a lot of utility in some different legendary arenas. The biggest issue, I would say, though, is the fact that he obviously is using a 3-gauge move. So it makes that, I would say that's mostly going to be at the very least RNG intensive for doing any solos, but for duos he's probably going to be pretty good. So in a legendary gauntlet type of situation, staggering 3 is great, the defensive debuffing is great, the speed debuffing is also great, and then realistically speaking, I think he's going to be pretty good for Registeel, honestly. You use Pin Missile, or I mean, you could use Close Combat as well to debuff enemy defense with Punishing Strike, and then use Close Combat as your main DPS option, and you can build a secondary Sync Nuke there as well, so that's pretty good. Do I think he's going to be the perfect Registeel counter? I don't know. I don't know if he can solo or not, simply because he doesn't have as many gauge abilities. I mean, he probably could with Pin Missile, realistically speaking, but you still do want to use Close Combat for the flinch, so you do have to really consider that. I don't know. Those legendary gauntleters will be able to probably figure that one out. Naomi will figure it out probably. Anyway, That's pretty much all I gotta say about Barry. Realistically speaking, he's the best bug unit in the game. I'd say he's better than Viola, Hilbert. I mean Alder, whoever your other options are for bug. I would say Barry's just better than them. Even if they have more utility and he's just a striker, I'd say he's still the best bug unit in the game. Very good striker just in general as well. Good utility with the defensive debuffing, which not only helps out himself but also helps out allies. Right, with maybe special costume Emmett if you run them together, or any other physical attacker you may run with Barry. That's going to be pretty helpful on that front. Very easy to activate Sync Nuke with Speedster, Sync 9, and Haymaker. He raises all those stats by himself very effectively and very passively, so you don't have to worry too much there. And he also does have a little bit of sync ramping utility with the -1 sync countdown here and the -1 sync countdown from Head Start 1 should you try to maybe pick that up. So that all this stuff does culminate into being pretty helpful, and you can obviously empower his Sync Nuke with the Sync Nodes here, the Tech EX roll, and a bunch of different options. So overall, what would I say? Barry's a great striker. He's a great striker, the best bug unit in the game, and if you want to go for him, I wouldn't really blame you, because he's very, very easy to use, and he's very high-powered. So if you're looking for a character that you can use very freely, and maybe you joined after the Neo Champions, not the Neo Champions, the Anniversary units left, so, the Cygnus Gladion, Gita, and Neo Champion Silver, if you want a unit that can just help you clear content without having to think too much about how to play the game, Barry is going to be very good for that, just being a very easy to use damage dealer. It's just Pin Missile and Mega Horn. That's pretty much all you use, and you'll be fine. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I'll see you all later. Let me know what you think about Special Costume Barry and Mega Heracross down in the comments below. And yeah, let me know if you're going to be summoning, and I'll see you all later.